Got my notes, check. Pepsi, check. Sunglasses, check. Hat, check. Thick skin, check. And sources, check. Let's go. Welcome to Golden Blue Dude, everybody. This is where we cover all of college football. So if you're a college football fan, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. I call my Patreons the shot callers, and I can't wait to live stream some games and watch it with my Patreons and the score prediction contest. That's going to be fun. So yesterday was the Slob softball, and I think it's going to turn into an annual thing. And I had a lot of fun, and yes, my team lost. It was a walk-off home run for the other team, but it was a great game. Much lower scoring than I thought. The fielding was excellent. Golden Blue Dude did get sunburnt. It hurts a little bit, but I'm going to power through it. And on top of that, we did reach 9,000 subscribers. So now you can call me Mr. 9,000 Golden Blue Dude. But our big goal is to get to 10,000 by the beginning of the season. Don't forget to check out our merchandise store. Anything you could ever want from Golden Blue Dude is at our merchandise store. My favorite shirt is actually the checklist shirt. Yes, we made a shirt about the checklist at the beginning of the video. I'm very concerned with the ACC now. Now that I've heard what Jim Phillips said to the media, I'm very, very concerned about the ACC. They started asking him questions about conference realignment and the possibility of eventually the Power 5 conferences turning into Power 2, meaning the Big Ten and the SEC. Here's what he had to say about it. I don't know that it's the only solution. I think you have to look creatively. All right? He said, we've been doing that over the last few years. We're going to continue to do that. All neighborhoods need to be healthy. It's not good for college athletes if we're not. And again, you heard in my reference earlier, we understand where those two leagues are, talking about the Big Ten and the SEC. No one is ignoring that. We're all trying to find ways to close that gap. You had a few hiccups there in the beginning, but you finished strong. But he's not done there. He said, so I know where our 15 schools are. We are really aligned to try to find some solutions to that revenue gap. But it can't be at the expense of all the other things that we're doing. You're starting to go wrong now. You're starting to go wrong. He goes on to say, so there's, I think, a really good plan for us as we move ahead. Again, considering all those are our options, in these kinds of times, you have to do that. He says, this is unique, what's happened over the last 12 months. No, incorrect. This is not a unique situation. This has been happening over the past 20 years. In fact, your league is basically responsible for the demise of the Big East. So no, this is not a unique situation. And you're trying to make a plan that isn't at the expense of all the other things you got going on. What are you talking about? Like, that was very generic. What other things do you have going on? And do you realize this, Jim Phillips, that if the ACC gets picked apart, then all that other stuff that you're working on is going to go down the drain anyways. You're not going to exist. So what you said makes no sense. Jimmy. When are you going to learn your lesson? Look, I'm on board with ESPN and the ACC trying to renegotiate their TV deal. That's understandable. It actually needs to be done if you want to keep those bigger brands. It has to happen. And then there's the Notre Dame factor. Bottom line is, if the ACC doesn't somehow get Notre Dame to join, I think the ACC is done. That's just my opinion. Notre Dame is your saving grace. If you can't reel them in, then you're done. You're not focusing on what you need to focus on. This was a bunch of rambling that didn't make any sense and did not address the problem at hand. You did realize that the Big Ten and the SEC have a massive revenue gap, so I will give you that. But you didn't address how you're going to solve that. You didn't address what some of the options could be. And the glaring thing was what you said, it can't come at the expense of the other things going on. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, because college football is driving the machine. If you don't do something about college football and keep your league from being picked apart, then that other stuff that you're doing won't matter. It's going to go down the drain because you're going to get picked apart. And honestly, I feel really bad about Miami. I think Miami has a really, really good brand, and yet there are no talks that the SEC or the Big Ten are interested in them. That is a shame. That is ridiculous. One of the biggest problems for the ACC teams leaving right now is that it would cost $500 million for one team to exit the ACC right now. That is insane. That's the only thing that's keeping the ACC intact right now, that chunk of change. And I'm not sure if it goes down year by year or if it's locked in. Even if you wait till 2035, if you leave, is it going to be $500 million? I don't know. I haven't read the ACC TV contract and grant of rights cover to cover, but that is an incredible chunk of change. We all thought that it was insane, the buyout for Oklahoma and Texas leaving the Big 12. That was a drop in the bucket compared to the exit fee for the ACC. Combined, Texas and Oklahoma leaving the Big 12 wouldn't cost as much as one team in the ACC to leave the ACC. So that's what's trying to get figured out. And it's a two-edged sword because, yes, you're figuring out the grant of rights so you can somehow try to add some teams, but at the same time, you would be opening the door for teams to exit. So if you do renegotiate that TV contract, it better have a massive, massive revenue jump. That way teams don't jump off the ACC and you can entice other teams in. Otherwise, the ACC is doomed, and the only thing that's going to keep them together is those grant of rights until 2036. And I'm not sure how ironclad that clause where if Notre Dame were to join a conference before 2036, it has to be the ACC is. So I'm not sure how big that penalty would be for Notre Dame if they did decide to join another league. I'm just going to be honest with you. Miami deserves better than this. They are a rich recruiting bed, and I think they would be a great get for the SEC or the Big Ten. They make sense either way. Look, geographics are out the window. The Big Ten grabbing USC and UCLA told everybody geography doesn't matter. So I know Miami's down in Florida and the Big Ten's all the way up in the Midwest, but now USC and UCLA is out on the Pacific Coast. So that really doesn't matter. You have to get the best brands. And I think Miami would help your revenue. They're a pretty good brand. And they're on the rise right now, especially with that new hire with Mario Cristobal. The Ruiz brothers are thinking about building a stadium just for Miami football. Right now is the best time to grab a team like Miami. So I feel bad for Hurricane fans. Not gonna lie, I feel bad for them. And to be honest with you, I would not blame Miami if they eventually did end up in the Big 12, as long as the payout is there. Hey, if the SEC turns you down and the Big 10 turns you down and the ACC is a sinking ship, hey, jump over to the Big 12. It's better than nothing. So what happens in the future? I don't know. But Jim Phillips has got to get his head out of his rear end. This was sheer nonsense what we heard. It made no sense. Yes, you recognize the problem, but you didn't spit out any solutions or any path to a solution. It can't come at the expense of whatever else we're doing. What does that even mean? It has to come at the expense. If you got to cut budgets in other sports, I know that sounds mean, but football drives the engine. If that's what you have to do, then you have to do it. You can't be so narrow-minded and closed-minded that you're going to block that out. Figure out college football first, and then you could address whatever else is going on. I don't know whether you're working on a contract to where Notre Dame can join full-time and still have that contract with NBC. To me, I think that's the answer for the ACC. But then again, on the flip side of that coin, Notre Dame said, hey, we will stay independent if we can have a guaranteed payout of at least $75 million. So if the Big Ten can help them do that, then they're probably going to be affiliated with the Big Ten. The ACC better figure something out, or they're going to be a sinking ship. And Jim Phillips made himself look like a bonehead in the ACC media days. So y'all let me know in the comments, what do you think about this situation? I mean, am I reading this wrong? Was he actually pretty good with his responses? Because I don't think he was. Do you think the ACC has its days numbered as a conference? Or do you think they'll survive and become that third conference? Let me know in the comments section. That's all I got for you for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.